Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Lurker. And this is a new movie thriller coming to you from writer-director Alex Russell, who's worked on The Bear and Beef. So, pretty intense television shows, and here we have Theodore Pellerin, who plays Matthew, who is a retail employee who infiltrates the inner circle of an artist on the verge of stardom. As he gets closer, the budding music star, access and proximity become a matter of life and death. And Archie Madekwe plays Oliver, this artist, and this film is so intense, so uncomfortable, and is just a punch in the face when it comes to the thematic elements that it's exploring through this film. And from a directing standpoint, this film balances an interesting, very contemporary kind of atmosphere. It's very much like modern artists, modern fandom, but Russell leans into this very crisp, very classic looking, really well made looking film. And you have Kenny Beats, who lays down the music of the film, and Pat Scola, who's the cinematographer. This is just a really sharply created film. The filmmaking was quite impressive. What's really effective in this film is the way that Scola and Russell lean in on these intimate close-ups. It's putting us in a claustrophobic space with these characters who are in these heightening, tense situations. And this story really centers around this young man who has his own aspirations. Matthew wants to be a photographer. He wants to be involved. He wants to be Oliver, this soon-to-be star. And his obsession and his drive puts him in such an uncomfortable situation, and he is vying and battling with others, like his own friend who wants in on the circle too, because he has that same hope that maybe he can get launched up with this new star or those already in the circle. There's so much tension and conflict between these characters because everybody has their selfish motivations and what they're trying to get for themselves out of this situation. And it's interesting seeing Oliver, who's just surrounded by these sycophants and those that are trying to take advantage of him and utilize him. And it's all of these complex dynamics that makes this such a layered film. But most importantly, it's the dynamic between Matthew and Oliver. Because Matthew does not fall short of getting his hands dirty to make sure that he does not lose out on this opportunity to be a part of this inner circle. And he goes to great lengths that are quite illegal to be able to do those things, and how their dynamic evolves and how it's so toxic and how it's so parasitic and symbiotic, where you have Oliver, who's using all these people and treating them like they could just be thrown away at any moment, is so heartless and cold. But you have Matthew, who is so unhinged and very parasitic and wants to live off of what Oliver has so that he can springboard and use it for himself. And you see how that evolves throughout the film, and it's compelling. We soon lose that empathy that we certainly had for Matthew at the beginning of this film. How the film injects the music and the intensity and just all of these other elements weaves this together to make this such a compelling experience. But it's the thematic work, that how it explores obsession and celebrity and those very toxic elements of society which will have become so toxic. The isolation that you can tell that Matthew has experienced. He doesn't know how to interact with people, and he struggles because he sees even one of his friends from the retail store who comes into the fold of this group trying to sabotage, and all of these conflicting elements. But this film really soars on the backs of these performers. Pellerin has this very uncomfortable affect And there's moments where he's doing some unhinged things, but he feels so organic in it. And you have Madekwe, who is just oozing charisma, has this presence. You can see why all these people want to be around him. Sonny Soljik, who had been like the main kid in mid-90s, he's here as the friend, and he gives a really fine performance. Havana Rose Liu, who's kind of trying to pull this all together for Oliver as like his manager as such. I think she's a great addition to this. And this film keeps ratcheting up to this really unhealthy, toxic dynamic between these two characters, and it makes us sit in it. And we can process how toxic and uncomfortable this is, but the performances, the filmmaking, just the tension and the suspense, the leveraging of the artistic elements of the story all come together to deliver an impactful and poignant and uncomfortable experience for sure. But those are my thoughts on Lurker. Let me know what you think and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.